appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk about this very timely and important subject, not only for the work you do here at the town, but also in your personal lives. A lot of this is going to be able to be carried over. So let's start right here with this this first slide, and it's a picture of a rather it's a shadowy figure, very sinister looking, and I think when we first heard about cybercrime, this is kind of the image that popped up of someone sitting in usually a teen perhaps, sitting in a basement somewhere in Asia or Eastern Europe, and in the middle of the night, and tapping away and making bad things happen. And that's certainly how it started and still occurs today. But it is now a multi-billion-dollar business. There are corporations that are out there that are set up for the sole purpose of going ahead with these types of attacks and getting money for it. Even to the extent of having customer service departments. They lock up your files. They need Bitcoin, which is not traceable. Who here knows how to get Bitcoin? Maybe one or two people perhaps, but certainly not very, not something that everyone knows. So they have a number you can call, and they'll help you get set up to find out, how you get Bitcoin so that you can actually pay them. So it's become a big business and certainly very sophisticated. So what we're going to cover today, I'll give you a little background on retrofit technologies and what we do. We're going to start at the broad level, talk about network security. We'll get into more of the details, as Ron mentioned, about ransomware. We'll talk about some statistics on cybersecurity. We'll talk about a little test we ran, and then we'll do some quick video training and go through some examples to see how we would identify and prevent certain things from occurring, and then we'll wrap up with a Q&A. This is meant to be an interactive session, so if at any time through the presentation, feel free to stop. If you have a question, if you have, we got some great discussion going on yesterday on things that have happened to people that were in the room, either an email they got or something that happened to them, and it really helps bring the examples to light in real terms that everyone can understand, and so those are helpful. If you have any of those, certainly feel free to share that as well. All right, so let's start with retrofits. So we're an IT support company, managed services provider is maybe the technical term. We're located in Milford, Massachusetts. That's where the office has been for almost 40 years. We have our network operations center there, all in-house, which is staffed by our own engineers. And we work with a lot of commercial and government clients. So we've been on the state contract for IT services in Massachusetts since its inception in 1994. We're the longest standing provider for IT services on that state contract. We work with about 100 cities, towns, state agencies, all over the state. And that's a big chunk of our business, and that's certainly the relationship that we've had with Ron. Prior was on the commercial side, but certainly even here we've been in town working with the town for over 3 years now. We have a focus on security. That's everything that we do comes down to security. In fact, we were recently named one of the top 100 managed services companies in the country as it relates to security services. And basically everything, what we do is about keeping our clients' assets safe, be that information, be that information about their clients, the financial side of things, and then keeping the employees productive. I know Ron shared an article about a local town here that's been down for 3 weeks. So imagine, not having the ability to do your work, and how, computers and the systems that you access come into your day-to-day for that length of time. It's certainly a big issue. Some of the solutions, and certainly one that we've talked to Ron about, are really the next generation of solutions for security, programs and systems that are watched and monitored by security professionals, Security Operations Center, that use artificial intelligence. It gets to know the patterns of the users so that if something goes outside the norm, let's say someone is normally in during regular business hours, all of a sudden someone's in the middle of the night downloading files. That's out of the norm. So it would flag that. So really advanced type of security features, the ability to stop attacks as they're occurring, zero-day attacks, meaning ones that aren't yet identified but just have a pattern. So really interesting stuff. That's what we focus on, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of those different techniques as we get into it. So let's start with network security and really what it is. Just basically at the high level, any activity designed to protect the usability and integrity of the network and the data, both hardware and software technology. So it really encompasses everything. Effective network security manages access to the network, targets a variety of threats, stops them from entering or spreading on your network, and that's really a lot of the focus of what we're talking about today. Visually, I find it easier to understand like this. Let's start here. This is the firewall, which is really one of the critical pieces of technology that is really at the forefront of stopping threats. It separates the outside world, the internet, the Wild West filled with all these bad things, from your organization internally here. And information is going back and forth, and it is inspecting and filtering anything that it can be potentially damaging. Inside the network, or the environment, there's a network, there are servers, workstations, and then here are all of you, the users, kind of at the center of it that are interacting with all the different IT internally. As you can see, you're surrounded as well with potential threats that are coming in through various means. So that's kind of just a little snapshot of how the network and it looks. When we talk about security, an analogy that a lot of people find easy to understand is the security of their home. A lot of us have either alarms or other means to protect ourselves. And so when we talk about network security, IT security, it really is very similar to how we approach security for a house or our homes. There are components that you may have in place to prevent damage or theft, other elements that are there to detect, and then others, again, that are there to respond. So those are the three main elements. If we talk about prevention, that's like a code on your garage, or lights on, or window locks, or even a sign, protected by whatever company, door locks. So those are really preventative techniques. Those that would fall under detection would be, video cameras, motion sensors, the neighborhood watch program, or smoke detectors as it relates to fire. And those are the detection techniques. And then when we talk about response, this is could be an alarm, security monitoring that triggers a center that sends law enforcement, or even some type of dog or other means here as well. So it really, the main theme here is to properly secure your house, you can't just have one of these things. It's about layers of different elements that go on top of each other to really provide a fortified type of scenario. And it's similar when we approach it for your IT side of it. Again, there's no magic bullet. It's all about those same types of layers: prevent, detect, and respond. So some of the prevention as it relates to IT, things like password management, how you manage your passwords, how often you change them, where you put them, how secure are they? Are they on a sticky note on your monitor? Are they somewhere else? cybersecurity awareness training, sessions like today and ongoing training, software patching that's done behind the scenes by by Ron or by us as it relates to certain parts of your environment, and then the firewall, antivirus. Those are the elements that are in place for prevention. As it relates to detection, threat intelligence, log monitoring, security information, and event management. This is really the high-end security that I'd mentioned before. Intrusion detection systems, and then response could be automated threat remediation or that security operations center that's monitoring everything and shutting things that are bad down. So again, the same approach, layers of protection that need to be in place to fully protect. So we talk about ransomware, and this is certainly one side of cybersecurity, probably the one that impacts end users most directly, and certainly the type that are most prevalent in cities and towns as well. It's a hack that locks you out of your data and demands payment for its release. So imagine all of your files that you have on your local drive and then backed up to the servers, locked up, can't access them. Scary little message comes up that says if you want access, you need to pay us Bitcoin. 2017 really started all of this. There was an attack called WannaCry that was really worldwide. Hit some very large companies and shut them down. It's the most common type of attack. Hiscox is an insurance company. They do cyber insurance, and they do a study on these things with businesses every year. And there are really two forms. A targeted attack that is really targeting a specific organization. And again, it demands a ransom for release of files. And then there's more of a shotgun approach where they cast a wide net and hopefully catch something. And I think we've done this type of presentation and discussion for small businesses, and sometimes they'll say, well, we're a little company. We have 10, 15, 20 employees. Why? We don't have anything. We don't have a lot of money. We don't have a lot of information. Why would someone be targeting, they're coming after us? There's no reason for that. I'm not concerned about it. And really the answer is they're not targeting you. They're targeting everybody. So they're sending stuff out on a wide basis, and you just will happen to get caught up in it. So it's not that they're targeting you, they're targeting everyone. And as that net comes in, if you're caught up in it because someone clicked or someone didn't look at an attachment and did something, clicked on it unknowingly, that's how it enters. So any questions at this point on anything? I'll just stop for a moment before we get into some statistics here. All right. So talking about that Hiscox study, 47% of small businesses suffered at least one cyber attack. And that can be anything from a full ransomware lockdown, locked out, to a virus coming in or some malicious type of a program that runs, so various stages. 44% experienced 2, 3, or 4 attacks, and 8% had 5 or more attacks. So it isn't something that, hey, I stopped them, aren't we great? It's always coming. So, and there is also a lot of statistics about companies that do get hit and they get their way out of it. Let's say they're locked down and they restore it through a backup or another means. Once something gets in, it's almost like they're marked as a target and they're actually more prone to attack. So, one of the theories on ransomware, do you pay it or not, right? And that's all. There's a debate in the industry, and there may be situations on either side. But one of the things is, hey, if you pay it, then they know they got their money there, and they know where they can get more because you've already demonstrated that you're going to pay it, so they're going to come back. So
the statistics for that are amazing because there's a lot of people that get hit with a legitimate ransomware attack. They ask for, sorry, They ask for, let's say, $51,000 in Bitcoin to release the files. And the town or the business say, no, screw you, I'm not gonna do that. And then they end up spending 17 million getting back everything they lost. And it's just, you know, it's a cut your nose to spite your face kind of attitude where it really doesn't make sense. And although the people in the industry and the insurance companies don't tell you, yeah, you should pay it, it's an unwritten law that they don't say it, but say, well, you know, you're probably better off if you just pay it. And that's what, you know, some police departments and others have done. They paid the ransom and got their stuff back at a lot less, but I don't understand the reasoning that people have when they do that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and again, you know, part of it as well is, you know, even if you pay it, there's no guarantee that you're going to get it back.
Exactly.
You know, or that it's going to be unlocked or partially or anything. So I mean, it's very difficult. It really depends on the exact situation, what's at stake, and you know, what other options you have. That's really where it comes down to. So let's talk about cities and towns. Certainly, all of you, and the others are a target. Here's some examples from the national news. This was the latest one last week, 22 Texas towns, you know, a bunch in Florida, and you know, from the Wall Street Journal that hackers just you won't let up on U.S. cities and towns. You're a target for various reasons. Here's a list of whole other ones. Baltimore has been in the news a lot lately, but some other ones here. And, you know, part of it is an understanding that of the budget situation with most cities and towns, and the ability to put in place sessions like this. Advanced cybersecurity means it's generally thought to be more limited in cities and towns than it is in a commercial enterprise. So the feeling is that there's more vulnerability here. There's a lot of valuable information in cities and towns, as you know, financial information, personal information, and these make a lot better headlines than Joe's Plumbing had a cyber attack. You know, this is a town, it's a city. You know, people with pitchforks can be out, you know, the townspeople, you know, it gets people going, and they also realize that. So that's a combination of things that leads them to specifically target.
And they're under no obligation to delete the data that they collected from you. In other words, that data, they have the unencrypted version of it, and that data, if there's credit card information from paying online permits or any of that kind of stuff, they can make that for sale on the dark web.
Right. And there are a lot of examples. I chose not to highlight the local ones here in the state and surrounding states, but you know, a lot of examples of that as well locally. So this isn't just an other place thing. It is everywhere, including right here in neighboring towns as well. So I don't want to insult anyone today, but 95% of all successful cyber attacks are caused by human error. So what we call the human firewall, all of you, you're the weakest link. So that's why we're here, and that's why we're talking. And one way or another, through human means, you know, that's really where the vast majority, as you see, of the potential threats gets in. When we talk about the layers, going back to that house scenario, there are a lot of things that are being done on the back end that Ron is taking care of, and those are occurring on you know, automatically behind the scenes. But this is something that is down to each of you in terms of being able to identify, be aware of, and protect things. So we're going to get into a little more of that. So we did a little test, and we sent out an email that mimicked a recent phishing, the types of phishing scams that are out there, and we sent it to all of you and the entire town. And this is, I'll go over some of the results. We did it with a special program that we have, and basically it was really to assess various systems that are in place and some of the behaviors, and really use it as a baseline that we can then build a program to for the town in terms of monitoring, and we have a baseline now and be able to measure results of some of the actions that Ron is looking at implementing. So we sent out 56 emails, 16% got by security filters. So there's various spam filters, other things that are in place on the back end, and still 9 got through that. So that's when we talk about the layers of security. Not everything grabs every bad thing. So 9 got through, and actually 1 was clicked on. Now it ended up being not a bad email. It was a test that we sent out, but it could have been, and it mimicked that. So that's what we would term an 11% click-through rate, and which is actually pretty good as a baseline test. When we have a benchmark of government entities with less than 250 employees, all the stats for those types of organizations, almost 35% is the click-through rate on the baseline test. So quite a bit better than what we see on average for groups like you. So that's great. This is meant to be a program that's training and other training that's built into the educational side as something that continues over time. We could have a session today, it may be top of mind. You're going to have some takeaways here that I'll give you, and but over time things fade, so it's important to certainly keep up with it. And over time you can see the drop after 90 days, and then after a year of training and awareness, keeping it top of mind, it goes down to 2%. So this is pretty good, but still about 5 times, more than 5 times what it would be after the program carries out. See the sound.
Welcome to the Fundamentals of Phishing. This short module focuses on the basics of phishing, how criminals use it, and how you can avoid falling for phishing scams. Though the goal of this course is to arm you with the appropriate knowledge to help protect our organization from cybercrime, everything you will learn here can be applied to your personal life. And as always, if you have any questions or would like more information, please don't hesitate to ask. Let's get started. Phishing is the social engineering attack that utilizes email or SMS to scam individuals into divulging sensitive information or clicking on malicious links. These attacks vary in sophistication and intent, but they all have one thing in common. They target humans, not computers. Like most scams, phishing leverages human emotions to trigger a response. The attacker wants you to do something normally against your best interests. Click on a link, download an attachment, send sensitive information. They convince you to do it by creating a fraudulent scenario or a pretext, such as offering large sums of money, threatening you with late fees, or claiming that your account has been locked due to fraudulent activity. These types of psychological manipulation have been around for a long time, and to this day, phishing is one of the most common and successful attack methods used by cyber criminals. With a combination of awareness and common sense, you can avoid getting phished both in your professional life and personal life. From an organizational standpoint, phishing attacks are tremendously effective and dangerous. From data stealing malware to computer locking ransomware or building in backdoors for future attacks, a successful phishing attack has the potential to bring our organization to a halt. Keep in mind that the majority of cyber attacks begin with a phishing campaign. All it takes is one click and our entire operation is compromised. From a personal standpoint, falling for a phishing scam could lead to identity theft, which in turn leads to financial loss and hardship. It's important to remember that cyber criminals have no bias. They'll target anyone, anywhere, anytime. Here's an example of a real-life phishing email. You've probably encountered these types of generic, unsophisticated attacks in your personal inbox. They're easy to spot given their messy layout, poor spelling and grammar, and unrealistic promises of money. But believe it or not, they still have high rates of success. The victims of these attacks are often in stressful financial situations and are quick to fall for a promise of easy cash. Let's take a look at another example. This one appears to come from a reputable company, doesn't contain many spelling errors, and presents a believable scenario. So how do we know if it is real or fake? The biggest giveaway is the from email address, which displays a random string of characters and should raise your suspicions immediately. Additionally, the wording and phrasing of language in the body of the email is more awkward than what you'd expect to come from a professional corporate entity. The email doesn't address the recipient by name or account number, and there is some random spacing and capitalization within the text. Those issues alone present enough evidence that we can confidently mark this as a phishing attempt. But even more convincing is the link to the Resolution Center. Remember, mouse over is your friend. In this case, when you hover the pointer over the linked text, the URL redirects to a random address that in no way resembles a legitimate website. Smishing stands for SMS Phishing. Just like phishing emails, these attacks set up a fraudulent scenario followed by a request to click a link in a text message. The personal nature of these attacks makes them especially dangerous. People tend to trust messages that come to their phone number, and when those messages contain alerts about banking info, chances of a click greatly increase. If you receive a message like this one, call the number on the back of your card or look up your account info. In general, be wary of any random links that you receive via text, and keep in mind that criminals target mobile devices the same way they do any device or computer.
So just like the way we do business with the companies we work with, banks, stores, so on and so forth, has gone from an email environment or a web environment to mobile environment, so have the criminals shifted to that as well. Has anyone gotten these types of things on their cell phone? Yeah, so they're really, we started doing this type of training a couple of years ago. There may be a hand or two that was up, but now certainly the vast majority of it. So, and it's something that we don't anticipate a lot of times. That we're used to, hey, our phone is private, it's secure and cut off, but remember, it's a connected device, and therefore the potential to be vulnerable.
Not every phishing attack features obvious red flags like those you see in these generic, poorly written emails or text messages. SpearPhishing, for example, targets specific people and organizations, such as HR managers, lawyers, or healthcare providers. These types of attacks are typically more sophisticated and harder to spot. They often use email spoofing, a technique in which the attacker gains access to an individual's account and uses it to send phishing emails to people in the victim's contact list or address book. Imagine if you received a request from your boss to view an attached document. How much more likely are you to comply? Receiving phishing emails from people within your organization is commonly known as business email compromise. As you can probably guess, the probability of a successful phishing campaign goes way up when the victims believe they are dealing with someone they know. Another example of spear phishing is called whale phishing, which targets high-profile individuals, such as executives and celebrities. The scammers in this scenario almost always have some level of intel about their victims, such as your full name or names of your family and friends, which certainly increases the likelihood of a successful attack. These advanced phishing techniques highlight the importance of awareness. Never assume that the person on the other end is who they claim to be. If you're in a high-profile situation, you need to be extra cautious and vigilant about verifying the source before responding or divulging any sensitive information.
So just on that, I'll give you an example of what happened with, we got a call several months ago from a client that, well, they weren't a client at the time, but they reached out to us, and they were looking for some training like this and other things. They had just fallen for a couple types of scenarios that were just described here within a period of a few weeks. So with one of them, one of the admin people there got an email from the owner of a business, it was a small business, saying, you know, they were getting ready to do some, he wanted to do, you know, something for a few people that, you know, did a great job for him, and, you know, can you get some Amazon cards for me, and, you know, just send me the numbers, you know, off of the back so that I can, Amazon gift cards, so that I can shoot them off to these people, and, you know, I want to do it quickly because, you know, want to get this over with. So the person did, ran out, bought from CVS, I think it was $200 or $300 worth, sent them over. It was a impersonation attempt, right? And in the same organization, a call to the controller. We have this new vendor. I need you to send $10,000 to this account. Here's the information, again, coming from the owner, and it was sent. And I see some people shaking their head, oh, that's crazy, how could that? And it's true. But again, you're in a situation, if the owner tends to be that type where and he said, look, when I tell you something, I want it done, and don't ask me any, you know, that's what ends up happening. And so these things are real life things that can happen, and you just have to be very vigilant about it. And we're going to get into some of the techniques on what to look for and how to spot these.
Unsolicited emails and text messages don't always pose a major security threat. In a lot of cases, they may simply be junk mail or spam like adware, and are most often used by advertisers to message thousands of people at once with the goal of selling something or generating website activity. More annoying than dangerous, these mass messaging campaigns existed long before the internet and utilize a wide variety of formats, such as email, text messaging, regular mail, and voice messaging. For example, that special credit card offer you received in the mail? Spam. That phone call from a telemarketer offering goods and services? Spam. Even those door-to-door salespersons qualify as spam. From a security standpoint, even though a spam message may not always contain harmful content, it's still best to avoid clicking on anything or responding. Here at work, if you receive a large amount of spam, report it ASAP. At home, add your phone numbers and email address to national opt-out services to reduce the amount of unsolicited contact you receive. And as always, guard your personal information. Don't give out your name, email, phone number, or address to anyone unless absolutely necessary. That's the best way to avoid getting added to a spammer's list. Know all the signs. If an email displays threatening language or a sense of urgency, is poorly worded with bad grammar, or contains requests to click on random links or attachments, chances are it's a scam. Verify the source. Even if an email comes from someone you know, treat all requests for sensitive information or money with a heavy degree of skepticism. Master the mouse over. Hovering your pointer over a link in most cases will display the entire URL. If it directs to an unfamiliar website, you are likely being phished. This can be done on mobile as well by long pressing on links. Just be careful not to accidentally click when performing this function. Remember that mobile devices are targets too. Never click on a random link sent to you via text message, and be cautious on social media where scams spread fast.
Yeah, I might add also that if something like this happens on your cell phone and you're connected to the network over Wi-Fi in this building, you're connected to the network. So clicking on it on your phone is just like doing it on your PC. It will still have the same negative effect.
Thank you for participating in our Phishing Fundamentals training. This non-technical overview can best be summarized with these 5 takeaways. Use common sense, stay focused, slow down, think before you click, and if you suspect a phishing attack, report it immediately. Now, let's test your knowledge with a short quiz.
All right, so let me just move out of this for a moment. So as the sophistication of these types of attacks have continued, part of the reason, you know, and they become more sophisticated, very targeted, so they know who does what. Right, and a lot of the reason for that, and as I'm talking, I'll hand these 2 out, is over the years as companies have established their web presence, they've gone to putting everything they can on the internet, on their website. Not only, you know, what they do, their products, their services, clients that they work with, and also there's usually a section that's about us, where you may have a listing of all the executives in the company, sometimes with their emails, sometimes with their phone numbers, right? It became, hey, I'm going to put everything I can to try and see how, you know, do whatever I can to get as much business as I can. Those are all methods open to anyone to gather intel about the organization. So one of our security partners that we work with, they have one of their engineers that started out in college as a hacker, a bad guy, and he's now, it's called a white hat, so he's on the good guy side now. But he would say, you know, I'd get everything I needed from the internet. I'd find, you know, and depending on what type of thing he was going to do, he'd go out, you know, visit the business, see some patterns going on. You know, he'd know what the owner looked like if there were a picture. He'd know when he left the office. And attacks could be timed that way. And a lot of them are. We had a client of ours call us and say, this seems a little odd. The owner just left, and I got an email from him asking me to send money to this account. Is that, it seems a little fishy. So we looked into it and ended up being something we advised, hey, don't do it, it's fraud. We tracked it down. But again, for them to know when the person left the building, that's how sophisticated that they're getting. And
well, as you pointed out yesterday, in mind, everybody has in their mind what a hacker looks like as some geeky teenage guy living in the basement of his parents' house. It's gone well beyond that to now you have, you know, the Chinese and the Russian military and all, you know, whole towns in Serbia and Romania that are dedicated. These towns have increased their gross income for the average person 100-folds, because all they're doing is creating fake news reports. I mean, this is now, as you pointed out, big business. You know, there's millions of dollars to be had just by doing this stuff.
yeah, no, definitely, and that's why it keeps growing. I just handed out a couple sheets here. The first one is what is social engineering, and that is, you know, we talked about the phishing, the digital attacks, the SpearPhishing, in-person attacks, USBs, and you know, sometimes hackers will, you know, go in a parking lot of a bank or a business, drop a few USBs down there. People pick them up. You know, sometimes they'll label it with something that makes people interested, pictures or something. Again, quick plug in the system, in the network, something goes, right? So those are other things that are going on. Mobile phones, smishing, which is SMS based, or vishing, which is voice, so that relates to calls. The second sheet is a social engineering red flag. This is a nice one to keep somewhere close by on your desk, by your desk, or in a drawer. We're not going to go over every element in detail, but it gives some things to look out for in an email. Be it if it's in the from, who's it from area, if it's someone you don't communicate with normally, or outside the organization, or a suspicious looking domain, and who it's to, hyperlinks, content attachment, subject. So just a quick handy sheet for that. They talked about the mouse over is your friend as it in helps of identifying potential emails that are bad. Does everyone know the mouse over, what it is? Okay. So just hovering the mouse without clicking will usually reveal where it's going, or an email address or a link in terms of where it's going. That's very, they're very powerful, and certainly one big technique that can help.
Can I make an addition to that?
Yes.
That when you're looking at the email address from where it's from, and you think it's from someone you know, really look at that address, because sometimes they will add a digit or something else.
Yes.
And it's not an authentic email.
Yep.
So you have to be really careful.
Right, that's a great point. And even what you see in the email line will look like the regular name you're used to seeing there. But it's digging in and really keeping an eye on it. Yeah, that's a good point.
We had something come in and somebody couldn't figure out why it was not working the way it was supposed to. But what they had done when they reworked whatever it was, they changed www, which precedes every website, to www. Now, when you're looking at that, glancing at it, that just automatically registers as okay unless you really, really look at it.
Right. Yeah, little things, details, right? All right, so we've talked a lot about different techniques and things that, let me just get this. So we're going to put you guys to the test now and see how well you've picked up some things. So we're going to do a little test. We have our friend Andrew here, and we're going to help him. All right, so here we go. Here's the first one. Your account number, whatever, was banned for violation. Please see attached. There it is. There's an attachment here. What do you think? Phishing or legitimate? Okay, why? Why? Give me some of the things we've talked about that lead you to think that.
Well, let's start at the top with the person it's from and his email.
Yeah, certainly something different here, right?
The fact that it contains a threat that you
Threat.
want to act immediately.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, see capitalization and then, weird named attachment there. So, from Italy, yeah. So we'll say yes, that's phishing. Good. There you go. The threat, capitalization, and the zip file. Okay, let's move on. All right, from a bank.
It's a big bank.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, what do you think?
Does he have an account at bank?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's assume yes.
Well, in our office, we kept getting emails that, there was something amiss with our accounting. Like, one of us has an account with that.
Yeah, so that certainly would be a red flag there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I think,
Call.
part of it, yeah, that's a good point. Who said call? Someone say call?
Yeah.
That's right. So call, right? When we're unsure, call, especially if it's a bank you have a relationship with. But again, fraud, take action, that type
Yeah,
of
it
thing.
Don't
says,
use the
it says
numbers that are
confirm
in
your, it says confirm your banking details. Why would they be asking that?
Right.
It's a bank.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would never use the number that's in the email. I
Right,
would go to what
Right.
is the information I would have.
right, good point. Yep, so let's say we're gonna delete that. All right, the crowd is going wild, they like that answer. All right, so the Amazon gift card, has anyone been lucky enough to win one of those? Delete it, right? Nothing's free, right? That's a good point. There's the link when you mouse over. Clickhere.com. Click here doesn't seem right, right? Offering something too good to be true. So I think we're okay deleting this one. All right. Let's check out April. These come around quite a bit. Nice logo. Good logo, right? Authentic. Refund, right? So click here. Let's see. So mouse over. Oh, that doesn't look right. Right? Okay. So let's delete that. I think we're heading down that road. One important point here, the IRS does not send emails, right? So this wouldn't be something that they would do. Yeah, they call as well, right? They call as well.
They only use letters, right?
Yes, yeah, everything's mail. All right, so here's the last one from a law firm. So let's assume there is an Uncle Robert that you have, right? Would you delete it, keep it, or do something else?
Probably call Uncle Robert.
Yeah, call and go out.
Right. No, I think that's
Big family.
that's a good point, right? It's a large amount of money, but there isn't a link. There isn't any, urgency like do it right away. You can Google the phone number or call and.
We actually got one of those for an old employee that works here.
Like
Requesting from Canada, we're like, this is such a scam.
oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Did anyone call? Maybe get the number over. You never know. All right. But I guess the point is, some of them are certainly very obvious. Others less so. But it's about stopping and thinking about what what is really being said in there.
Now, as I said yesterday, at this point, of all of the places I've worked, this particular group here in Stowe happened to be the most savvy at catching stuff. They have a unique eye for seeing BS on stuff and smelling the BS before it goes any further. I have to admit that, of all the things that people send me, and you should keep doing that, You're very good at spotting this stuff already, I have to admit. You know, so that's a plus in your favor.
All right, so let's look at some of these telltale signs and see which ones we think. So which of the following are common phishing email traits? Sent to your personal email, you know, a lot of them are. Government, it seems like a lot are from IRS or other. Account closure, inconsistencies, unrealistic threats. Dear customer, generic, right? Bank, no formatting, too good to be true, suspicious, poor grammar. So really, all of these are techniques that you need to watch out for. So there's another handy list of those, again, just to keep beside your desk. So you guys passed all that with flying colors, and that comes to the end of the hour and the presentation. I just wanted to open up for any questions that anyone may have on either anything that's happened to you that you wanted to share, or anything else? Yes.
Got one I sent around the other day. I know that Highway was gonna rent some equipment for down at Lower Village, and it was from United Rentals, and we got the invoice for it, and then I thought, maybe we would get that invoice, but maybe not, so that ended up being a scam.
I got that too.
Did you get that too? Yeah, I was thinking, yeah.
Yep.
So it's a good eye. And again, even if it weren't, right? Even if it was legitimate, that extra step that takes a couple minutes, or you check, yeah, that's all set, and nothing bad about that.